Democrats would love to see that land tonight at 500,000. Boy, they got a long way to go to get there. The one thing Democrats have to hope for in Philadelphia right now is there is a large number of vote by mail ballots that are going to be released. Looking at my clock here, we think in the next 45 minutes or so. That should boost the Harris number in Philadelphia. That should boost the margin there. But she needs to get that back at least to where Joe Biden was 4 years ago. She needs to get that margin way up. I'm just going to take a quick look through the collar counties here because I think we're starting to get some meaningful vote. Again, these collar counties, especially Delaware, Chester, and Montgomery County, have become big core Democratic vote-producing counties. Delaware County is the most Democratic of these three, and you can see it was 63-36 here in 2020. The name of the game in all these counties, Democrats want to be landing north of the Joe Biden number from 2020. They're on the Joe Biden number in Delaware County right now. Take a look out in Chester County. Again, this is where Democrats, I said at the start of the night,
I think that's where they did a lot of their campaigning, so they did a lot of their door knocking.
Chester County, 59-8 for Harris right now.
That makes me a little bit more optimistic. I was starting to be a little bit worried. I'm still not really sure. She should have been doing way better. This should not be this close.
For Harris right now, and move up to Montgomery County. You know, this is, you got
that's another
towns on the main line
kind
here,
of good sign.
Old school, 26 points for Joe Biden.
Okay. So that I wanted to see some of that because I like his coverage better. He's a little bit more, he focuses in on a lot more things. I'll wait for the ads before we jump into what I was going to do with the map. We'll keep him playing while the ad is running, and then we'll
counties, and they're also going to need that. We'll just check quickly in Allegheny County.
But yeah, Cinnamon, this will definitely not, almost definitely not be tonight.
Vote here, and again, that
it's
Harris
probably going to be tomorrow.
Small, but
it depends on if there's a recount called for. It depends on if there's more delays, if there's any other issues, if there's anybody that wants to.
This is basically a push with 2020. The Trump folks, if you offered them that at the start of the night, I think they would have taken it. We'll see what that remaining vote does.
Steve, thank you. We've got a few calls that we have to make in Senate races.
President Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin. She doesn't need Georgia. If she gets Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, she doesn't need Georgia to win.
In Ohio. This is a Republican.
It would be nice, but she doesn't need it.
This is incumbent Democratic Senator
Sherrod
Brown losing his seat to Republican challenger.
So yes, like
in Ohio.
So there's a version of that is true, and there's a version of that I also think I understand a little bit of it. Like, yes, the fact that he does have as much of the vote as he does is still insane. Part of it is because our education system is dog shit, so people don't know what the fuck tariffs are, and they don't know how the fuck the law works, and they don't know how to look up data for themselves. They don't know how to think for themselves. That's a big part of it. And another thing is she did kind of mess up. It does kind of matter in this case how she ran, because she ran on Republican issues. So even the people that are like marginally more understanding of issues, but are, you know, the majority of people are not marginalized communities. They are typically people, a lot of white people, a lot of privileged people. So they don't think about what happens to anybody else. They think about themselves because their lives are very easy compared to the rest. So they don't consider all of that. They look at that kind of stuff and they go, oh, that makes me uncomfortable. I don't want to pay attention to that. Or they genuinely don't pay attention to it at all. So they hear someone tell them about it, but they don't actually see the true evidence, whatever. That's another thing. It is partially also our education system. We aren't motivated to learn for ourselves. That's a big part of it. But the other side of it, she then ran on Republican issues. She ran on a Republican immigration bill as like the biggest thing she would not shut the fuck up about. So if you are that kind of person that is privileged, that doesn't think about marginalized communities because you don't know anybody in a marginalized community, you don't realize that there's actually issues going on because it doesn't affect you, you don't care, then you go, you know what, let me do the elections tomorrow, let me look some things up. Oh, she's running for stronger immigration, building more of the wall and deportations. Trump is running on the same thing. You're not looking that deep. A lot of people are not looking that deep into things. So when that's what comes up when you go looking into what she was campaigning on, and it's like she's talking about Republican immigration laws, she's hanging out with Liz Cheney, she had a Republican event, what's going, I don't understand. Yeah, if they're running on the same issue, well, Trump is Republican, so like I guess I'll vote for him. Like that's one thing. The other thing is people that do stay a little bit more educated and watch her campaign on that stuff, and they go, well, I didn't like it when Trump was arguing for it. I don't like that you're arguing for it. I don't really want to vote for either of you, and then they don't. And I do get there is the argument of like, well, a vote for no vote is a vote for Trump kind of thing, but the argument goes the opposite way too. We were just talking about this. I was like, it's not a great place to get into, which is it's what Democrats run on, is like, you have to vote for us because you can't vote for him, and that's not a valid way to run a campaign. It's not a valid way to expect people to vote. You need to run on things that convince people that you are going to be better for them, and that you are going to like actually do good things for the country and for individual people, because individual people are selfish and less educated on the issues and less up to date on what the fuck anyone's talking about. So the fact that she ran so much on the issues that realistically are like, oh, well, Trump is doing the same thing, I don't get it, I don't like that, I'm just not going to vote. A lot of people are not motivated to go vote for you now. Meanwhile, she has policies that are on her website that she has talked about very briefly, so they're not going to come up if you're not the day before the election when you're looking for information, like her Medicare policies, expanding Medicare services, her price control related policies as far as like bringing prices down and fighting price gouging, counter messaging. She didn't do like any counter messaging pointing out why the tariffs don't make sense and explaining to people why that's not good. They really let Trump say things and go, oh, well, that's bad, he's showing off. They didn't actually counter message to reinforce those ideas in people that don't really understand these things or aren't educated well enough to know what the fuck any of it means. So they just go, oh, he's saying it's good, and they're not saying it's bad. Like, she arguably she missed a lot of these things that would have motivated more people to vote. It's not even so much people that voted for him instead of her. It's a lot of people that just went, I'm not going to vote for you. And then the other really, really big point that she messed up on, which I don't think is much of a miss, I think it's a little bit more intentional, is her policies and the way she looks at Palestine. She messages very heavily leaning towards the pro-Israeli side. She makes brief messages and comments of like, oh, and what's happening in Gaza is bad too. And that's it. And so it's very disingenuous. It's not motivating. She's involved with the Biden administration, who is not doing anything about it. They're letting it happen on. They're supporting it by still sending billions and billions of dollars of weapons over there. There's a huge Palestinian American population in Michigan that would make a huge difference for her, that are finding it very hard to vote for her because they think, based on how she's messaging and what she's kind of doing now, she's not in power now, but she is in the administration, of pushing a genocide or supporting a genocide, not doing much or anything to stop it, really, while their family and friends are still over in Palestine being bombed, right? So that's another big cut that she missed and could have campaigned on to gain more votes that are not voting for her. So there's a lot of that's why I say, like, she ran a bad campaign. That's why she's losing, and why I do think a lot of it lands on her for this being so close. However, I do agree with you. The fact that anyway Trump still has as much support as he has, I do think it's just ignorance, stupidity, and also, I mean, there's plenty of it that is intentional racism and shitty people. But I think there's just a lot of stupid people or uneducated people too that don't know how to think for themselves and don't understand what he's saying. So if Democrats don't counter message on it and explain to them why it's wrong, they're just going to go, oh, that sounds great. Yeah, I trust you. You're a billionaire. Of course you know what you're talking about when it comes to money. And that's it. And so that's why I say, like, the biggest reason is because her campaign didn't do what they needed to do to earn these extra votes. I still think that there are some signals that there are reasons to be optimistic. I think that there is still a chance to win. I don't think it's doom and gloom yet, but I don't think it should be this close. And I do think a lot of it lands on her campaign and her for the way they messaged on things. Those are just Republicans who are okay with diversity. Exactly. They're Republicans with the gay flag, the gay pride flag. Like, that's what it is. That's exactly how they run. And it's only worse and worse overall. And then if we don't punish them and we do just keep saying, well, yeah, I guess you're right, we do have to vote for you because we don't want Trump, they go, oh, look, that worked. And they keep doing it. So that's another argument for long-term impact, is like, you can't just let her, like, you can't also just expect to, like, vote for the lesser of two evils, because they'll just both keep getting more and more evil, and then they're both fascists, and now what, you know? I don't know. We're not in a great place in general. We're not in a great place in general. That is why I do say getting involved and staying informed and voting in your local elections, your state elections, is massive because you do have way more voice there and way more power there. Your vote means a lot more there statistically compared to national, and you can still make a difference in those. Those people then, in these things we're saying, this consistent kind of both parties going more and more right, including the Democrats going right as well. I'm going to my left, but whatever. The people that get elected locally then write the laws that affect how elections are run and how easy or difficult it is to vote in an election, which then indicates how easy it is for more progressive and easier ideas to be voted for and supported. And that snowballs in the opposite direction and can make a big impact. So I don't think it is something to say like, lose your motivation to stay involved or anything like that. I think it should be more of a push to get more involved and organize more. But I do think that's a lot of the reason why it's so close, and it shouldn't be. And I don't think that it's only something to throw at the people who chose not to vote, right? We're in such a shitty place that it makes it hard to make that argument. It's easier to make that argument when it's like McCain Obama, because like it didn't, you could, I think Cordova said this a couple times, you could have voted for McCain and not inherently been a piece of shit garbage person. Voting for Trump is not the same thing. So that argument would have been easier to make then, but it still holds true, and it is still something to keep in mind, and it's something that I'm a little bit more open to recently than I have been with the way I used to look at voter turnout. But I think the biggest thing is it's not even like, oh, Harris was a bad candidate. No, she had policies she could have won on if she just messaged on them, if she just did the thing. They kind of focused on weird things that are not going to win them this. They might still win, and she still can, but it could have been so much easier if they ran a better campaign. It's also an indicator of like, maybe she did know that. Maybe they did know that and they chose not to. That's also something to think about. Like, even if she does win, it's not like, oh, let's take a breath and wait for 4 years. No, because look at what she messaged on. We're talking about this. The leftist party is center right wing, if not just right wing, at this point. So it's important to be aware of all these things. It's important to pay attention to the information on all of these things and like keep that in mind and keep that motivating you to not just get complacent just because, oh, the map was blue, we're good, because we're not. Trump isn't just the face of republicanism, he's become an image and leader for white supremacy and justified discrimination, which is becoming the face of republicanism. It started that way, and there were Republicans that were like fighting him on it, and now they're all sucking his dick. So it's kind of all become one and the same. And then in the same way, Democratic candidates are starting to slightly lean into becoming the face of old republicanism, and then that keeps moving. And it's just, that's why I keep saying, like, regardless of the turnout, we still have to stay involved. We still have to stay active. I think there was another, I don't know if I saw another projection. Let's see. What are they talking about over here?
For him, they
oh, I was gonna mess around with the map, right? We were gonna get into one of the maps. Let's do that. I know I was just yapping for a while, but let's poke around with one of these interactive maps, right? Let's go to, let's refresh. Let's switch maps to the 538 forecast. Okay, so we were talking about what she needs to win. Let's say that whatever they're pointing at right now that they are leaning, they are correct. I think Michigan is not necessarily as clear. They're saying Pennsylvania, Wisconsin are closer than Michigan. That's kind of surprising to me, but maybe. So if Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina all go red, she can still get 270 with all of these. This is with any, like, if these all go solid. Let's make everything solid. We'll just say everything is confirmed for sure. So this is 270, 268. This is like really tight, way too close, but she can win this way. They're saying right now, so let's say she loses Pennsylvania, but she wins Nevada, Georgia. She still wins. If she loses Georgia, but she wins North Carolina and Nevada, she still needs Nevada. She still wins. If she keeps Pennsylvania but she loses Michigan, she doesn't need Nevada anymore. She can win just one of these two and still win. I don't think she can win Nevada with those and still win, no. She still needs one of these two at that point. If she wins Wisconsin, or loses Wisconsin but she does keep Michigan, again, she still needs at least one of these. So she's got a bunch of combinations here where she can win. This one seems probably what should be the most likely. Again, I mean, Georgia, North Carolina, they both have a lot of outstanding votes, and a lot of those outstanding votes are mostly expected to go blue, similar to Nevada. Nevada doesn't really have an impact if Pennsylvania goes red, but if Michigan or Wisconsin goes red, then it does matter. This should have been her almost guarantee right here. This outcome right here of everything that's currently on the map should have been her like, okay, that's for sure. She's got that. Georgia is probably, based on at least how last election went, I believe is more likely to be a little bit bluer than North Carolina, but there's been a lot of demographic shifts, a lot of people moving into Georgia, North Carolina out of Illinois, California, New York, because it's cheaper and more affordable to live. So a lot of people are moving to the cities, which has been bringing a lot more progressive voting, a lot more left-wing voting into these states. That's why they're becoming swing states when they used to be just, oh, you didn't look at Georgia. Georgia was always Republican. Florida used to be a swing state, but that's not the case anymore. So that's kind of where we're looking as far as options, right? She either needs all of these, and if she loses these, if she loses one, she has to get one of these. So there's no like she has to get exactly these states. These are the ones she absolutely has to win. But she does have to get what is it? It looks like there's a combination of like 4, right? She needs Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. If she loses one of them, she has to replace it with one of these. So there's she's got to get 4 of these like 15-ish, 15, 16, 19 count votes. If she gets Nevada, it gives her higher chances of like, oh, she lost Pennsylvania, she can still do it. But if she loses Pennsylvania and she doesn't get Nevada, I think that's loses Pennsylvania. She would have to get both of these, which are really tight. Could she win? No, she can't win with just one of them. So she can either get Nevada and 1, or she needs both. So like I said, there's a few paths, there's options, there's possibilities. It's why we won't know until the very end, because a lot of these are going to be, I mean, what did he say? Georgia last year was decided by like 11,000 votes. Like, that's crazy. That's wild. Okay, let's go ahead and pull up another, where is this? Here we go. He's talking about New York for some reason.
There, though, Trump has gained a net of about 20 points with just about all the vote in there. And again,
I
flagged
as
that
signals for how
because we are seeing it in New York.
Went.
Trump's gains with Hispanic voters, working class Hispanic voters. You're seeing it in New York City. It's being reflected in that statewide vote here, which has come down significantly. And even if you go across the Hudson River into New Jersey has 85% of the
that
vote
is wild.
Tallied. We have not yet called it. Now, Kamala Harris is ahead here by nearly 200.
He's talking about he's going to deport everybody, including people that he just thinks might be illegal but are not. Like the Haitian population that he said were eating cats and dogs, all those Haitian immigrants, they have legal status. They are legal immigrants. He's going to deport people like that too. So like that whole phenomenon is crazy. Again, Harris kind of ran on, we're also going to deport you, but like not as many of you. And that's where I think she fucked up in that realm, and why they were like, well, then either way, I guess I'll go with the guy who's gonna do it better. I don't know, like what? It's just it's wild. Okay. His rallies were insane because what do you mean you let someone say Latinos like making babies and can't pull out at a not even okay? That wasn't even the worst part. And then he's like, oh, the floating pile of garbage, Puerto Rico. And then some other guy said something like it wasn't even just that one guy. Multiple of them said horrible things. Wild. He's also said terrible things like, oh, they're all rapists. Like, they're all bringing in drugs and they're all criminals. They're all. Also, I think he doesn't know what asylum means because he keeps saying, like, oh, they're emptying their insane asylums. I think Donald Trump genuinely thinks asylum seekers are people that are in insane asylums. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. But yeah. Trumpism didn't rise in a vacuum, though. This is the natural result of decades of fostering ignorance and stoking racism. People are getting nostalgic for the old school Republicans while forgetting that the neocons have always been anti-choice, anti-queer, anti-immigrant, racist, and we shouldn't fall into the trap of nostalgia from the fascists. We're just more polite of it. Oh, 100%. 100%. A lot of it is willful, actual, knowledgeable, like they're aware that they're being racist. But there is also a lot of it that is like people are just genuinely really fucking stupid and ignorant, and it is designed to keep a lot of people that way so that they can take advantage of them. They can scare them. If you don't know how to think for yourself or learn for yourself or look into issues yourself, you're just gonna go, oh, that's scary. Oh shit, he's protecting me because that scares me, and he's saying he's gonna fix it. So if he's gonna fix the big scary thing that I don't know shit about, and I don't even know a brown person, yeah, he's right. I'm really scared, and he's gonna help, and that's what happens. And that is something that isn't even something that is because of Trump. That's something that used to work for George Bush. Like, that's, you know what I mean? It's not brand new. It's not something that is like, oh, it's all Donald Trump's fault either. It is something that is like inherently very much a big problem across the country as far as we are as just a nation. Yeah, you're right. And at least it is out in the open. I don't think it made a difference that it's out in the open, obviously. But that's maybe something that's kind of a good lens, because it's like, well, he would have won even more so if he knew how to talk about it in a way that hid it and made people scared and made them think he was actually smart. A lot of people already do think that. AP called and has 14% more to report. 14% isn't very much. Yeah, they don't wait till 100%. They called California when it had like 90% left to report. That's how that works. I think the strongest thing she said was, Doing Trump will walk into the office with a list of enemies. What? I don't know if I heard what she said, so I don't know the context of that. Hi, Joe, welcome in. Yeah, but that's why the right has systematically destroyed public education, so people are ignoring history and using that with cheap tactics. 100%. They make sure to underfund education system. They talk about, Trump is talking about he wants to abolish the Department of Education because he's like, look, education's really bad. This will fix it. Like, yeah, they made it bad. He's on the side that made it bad, and they're just going to make it worse. But now they can make it bad without people knowing how the fuck that works, because they're already too far in the hole, and then go, look at how bad we made it. I mean, that it is because Democrats made it bad. We'll fix it, and then do things that make it worse. That's a big spiral. That's a big issue. That's, again, another thing that can be influenced by local elections and smaller elections, because your departments of education and your school boards and your city councils and things do have a little bit more say, especially state level, on your state education systems. That is a place that you can still make inroads on and make progress on. So we're kind of going to be anxious balls together. We were just kind of complaining a little bit about why we're in the state that we're in, because if a lot of these undercurring things across the country for the last multiple decades were not the case, this wouldn't be nearly so close. We also might have a little bit more of an actual representation of like true issues, because people would actually know how to be educated on them. Those are all things that are important to, like I said, just because Kamala Harris wins, if she wins, that's not necessarily like, oh, that we're great. We're not great. We still need to push. We still need to organize. We still need to be active. We still need to push her to do things that we want her to do. Because right now, based on what she was focusing on, if she's just going to focus on what she thinks people want to hear, which is apparently for some reason they think immigration and basically being Republicans from 8 years ago on immigration, we're not going to get progress on those areas. It's going to keep getting worse. So even if she wins, don't just take a seat and wait for 4 more years. We need to stay active. We need to stay informed. We need to pay attention. Because there's a reason we've gotten to this point. There's a reason it seems shocking that we are at this point. But when you look at it, it's not actually that shocking. Let's go. here. Are they talking? No, they're doing an ad. Yeah, so North Carolina is officially called. Again, that's not like a shocking part of the process. That makes sense. They know that he has this much of a lead, and there is only a certain amount of the vote left, and mathematically, it is basically not possible, or at least extremely unlikely, for this difference to flip based on what they know is outstanding. That's extremely common. 14% is not. They call states earlier than that, so that's not surprising. North Carolina was a potential gift, but it wasn't necessary. Now, it does mean it's not an option if she loses one of those other states, like we said, but it was always more likely for her to win the states in the North than it was North Carolina. North Carolina was an if and maybe an extra bonus, but it wasn't necessary, and it's still not necessary unless we see some issues here. At this point, if we do see some issues here, her only option now is Georgia as a backup. Georgia, like I said, is also probably demographically a little bit more likely to be close and an easier win for her, maybe, than North Carolina. So it's still possible. But again, her biggest likelihood is the blue wall. I want to see what he's talking about. I don't really care about. This might be a Senate Republican or Senate representative race. They haven't. AP hasn't officially highlighted it dark red over here, but I mean it is called. Here we go. Let's see what they're talking about.
And then you have it again here. You know, you're getting 500, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 in all these little counties. 120 votes there. That's only 5% reporting. You say, oh, that's not much. It's a lot when you think you're going through a state and you have all these counties. And then the question is, so what are the Democratic margins, right? You've got 83 counties in the state of Michigan. So 56%, we're about halfway through in Kent County. It's the Grand Rapids suburbs, and she's running a little bit ahead of the president there. But Jake, the big question in Michigan is, when do those main county votes come in, and what do they do to the statewide total?
All right, John. Well, CNN has a major projection. CNN projects that Donald Trump will win the state of North Carolina. This is the first of 7 battleground states that we're keeping an eye on, and we are calling it for Donald Trump. What does that mean for the electoral count? Donald Trump now has 227
Is that so close?
electoral votes.